February 5th, 2 years ago. We were in the hospital. The morning we woke up, and I had a notification from Stripe saying that your account has been frozen. 7 months is how long they held my funds for. One of my family members, and I told them, hey, look, Stripe froze me. I'm having a hard time. And they're like, yeah, I told you you should get a 9 to 5. And I'm just like, what?
Hey, what's up, everyone? I am super happy because today I am with Cory Nielsen, who specializes with payments and funding, and we're going to have a great conversation around Stripe. We're going to have a conversation around payment processing, alternatives, funding, and all of that good stuff you need, especially in the back end of your business when it comes to the financial stuff that most people don't think about. Often we're really hyped about all the front end, but now we're going to be talking about the really important elements when it comes to payment processing and funding that can help you grow faster. So welcome to the show, Cory. I'm super glad to have you on.
I'm super pumped to be here as well. Great intro. Thanks.
Yeah. So, yeah, Cory, first of all, the most important thing I wanted to cover with you, as I mentioned to you, is the Stripe horror stories. So, if you don't mind, it's just been on my mind for so long since we started speaking, is you offer payment processing, great alternatives. And I know personally from my agency friends and everyone, a lot of people get Stripe accounts frozen, locked in. They lose sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars with Stripe. So can you tell us a little bit more about your background and especially when it comes to Stripe and payment processing, what kind of bad stories you heard and how that led you to where you are now?
All right. So almost 2 years ago, right? So my son was born. I'm backing up a little bit. My son was born. I'm not going to give exact dates. Just kidding. February 5th. That's fine. February 5th, 2 years ago. We were in the hospital. We went to the hospital February 4th, the night of, we went into labor, started having the baby, stuff like that. Um, the morning we woke up, like we had some sleep, we woke up and it was like I got a notification from Stripe, and I'm just like I'm going through the all the memories and stuff myself again. I woke up, we were in the hospital, supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and then I had a notification from Stripe saying that your account has been frozen and our decision is permanent, or our decision's final. And I'm just like, this can't be this can't be right, because I've got 7 marketing agencies. They all have their different Stripe accounts. Like they're all niche down into whatever everything else, real estate, solar, HVAC, stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, this can't be real. This has got to be a joke. I've been with Stripe since day one, pretty much. As soon as I knew that Stripe was around, as soon as I heard about them, I signed up and got set up. Um, did some digging into it, found out that it was actually real. They froze my account. And at that point in time, I didn't know why. Like most people, when they get this notification of their funds being held or their account being frozen or restricted or reserves placed on the account, most people don't know why. And we can go a little bit more into the top reasons of what I have found are the causes of this a little bit later in the call. But we can jump back to kind of the story. Um, 7 months is how long they held my funds for, with a legal team fighting them. When this happened, I saw that my Stripe account was frozen. I did a big 6-figure plus deal with a client in Brazil of mine that has been paying me for 10 plus years every single month. It was just this month was significantly higher than what he normally pays me because we did a completely different contract. It was in the subleasing of an airplane to him. So um, 7 months of battle with the legal team. It was like 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of going back and forth with Stripe. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're looking into it for you. Our decision's permanent. It's like final, but we're looking into it to give you a reason as to why your account was frozen and when you should expect to have your funds back. They were telling me that my funds should be deposited in 30 days. So I was like, okay, well, the money should be deposited somewhere in the first week of March. That's fine. I'll just, take fulfillment. I'll start building everything out that we'd agreed upon in the contract, and I'll front some of my own money on it for like some of my other businesses that we have going on. That's fine. I'll move money around, get it taken care of because contract's already signed, the client already paid, the money's already gone from his account. It's just not, it hasn't hit my account yet. So it's kind of hard to do all this stuff. Anyways, fast forward to March. Um, there wasn't any money deposited from Stripe. And I reached back out to them and they told me, they're like, oh, well, we had some more issues and it's going to be another 30 days. At this point in time, I'm just like, okay, well, I don't have the time to sit around for 30 more days and hope that it's going to be that you guys actually give me my money. I hadn't heard of tons of horror stories from Stripe at this point, but at this point in time, I had done research. I had started talking to my lawyers that we work with, and they just told me they're like, hey, like this happens. This happens a lot, especially in high ticket online businesses, because anything online is significantly higher risk. That's where 98, 99% of fraud happens is online businesses. So that's where most of these companies get shut down. And I was like, okay, well, I never knew that. Um, Anyways, fast forward, long story short, 7 months of battling with a legal team, spending their like this legal team was not cheap either. I had multiple six figures. They froze the airplane subleasing business, all seven of my marketing agencies because they were all tied to my name. They froze all of the accounts and held all funds for the accounts for 7 months. So I ended up having to sell some of my businesses because I couldn't take payments. So over the period of the 7 months, I burned through 6 or 7 different payment processors that promised that they could handle the type of volume for one, high ticket for two, online transactions, card not present is what it's called for three. And it's like all of this stuff is super high risk. And then anytime you get payments that are over $500 or $1,000 per payment, is you add additional risk onto it as well. And then when you're in coaching and marketing space, there's even additional risk on that because a lot of clients are lazy. If you're in the coaching and marketing space, people don't call their leads or people don't show up to the coaching programs, so they issue refunds. So significantly higher risk on that side of things. I would even go out on a limb and say that it's higher risk than cannabis. If it's legal, if it's illegal, then I guess it would be more high risk than coaching space and stuff. But that's me going out on a limb. That's not really what I've been told from everybody. But so yeah, it was I would say the most stressful 7 months of my life because I ended up having to sell businesses to get the cash flow and get the capital to fulfill for my clients that already had contracts that we already were trying to do things for. So that's what spearheaded me into payment processing, being burned by Stripe and then being burned by 5 or 6 other payment processors, and then finally meeting somebody that gives a shit, excuse my language, but that's the only way I can explain how to say it. So finally, then I started sending people over that had same issues as me. Because at this point in time, I was making posts on Facebook. I was talking to other people, spreading knowledge, spreading like, hey, this is what happened to me. Like, is this happened to you guys? Like, have you had any restrictions? And they're like, yeah, we have. This actually happened to us, and we're going through it right now. So I started sending people over, and the owner of the company reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to partner up on some of this stuff? I said, yeah, sure. And so we started working together, and that's really how I got spearheaded into the whole payment processing things. That was a long spiel, so I'll let you ask your next question, Rob.
Yeah, that's amazing. And honestly, oftentimes in the marketing space and all of that stuff in agencies and online businesses, a lot of people are, let's say, flashing their Stripe account, right? It all looks super nice. People only sharing the wins, not the losses, all that kind of stuff. But when something like this happens to you, it really burns and it really can stress you out a lot and require a lot of attention. And not many people are really open about it, which means you don't have that many resources to go reach out to. So now that you've transitioned, you like especially being a leader in the payment processing space, I know you're also in the funding space. What kind of benefits have you noticed to having a different payment processor than Stripe? And also on the funding side, maybe you want to cover a little bit of that too. What are the benefits of operating essentially outside of Stripe for collecting cash?
I mean, Stripe's great. I hate saying it, but they're not a multi-billion-dollar company for no reason. They're very good for startups, for businesses that are doing less than 10,000 a month. But if you're doing anything more than 10,000, 20,000 a month, try to get off of them. Like even like it doesn't matter who you use, just get away from them because that's your livelihood. Like your payments is the foundation of your business. If you can't accept payments, you don't have a business, period. You can sell a deal, but how are you going to, is someone going to Venmo you? It doesn't look very professional. They're like, hey, send me an invoice. And you're like, actually, can you pay me Venmo? No, not going to happen. And trust me, I know because I went through this for 7 months of burning through everybody. I was like, can you send me a wire transfer? I was even taking payments in crypto from some people. And a lot of people are just like, what is wrong with this business? Like, I want the security of using a credit card. Why do I have to wire you money? And then I tell them, well, Stripe froze my account, so I can't send you an invoice. And they're like, oh, you must have done something wrong. Even though it's like my chargeback rates were well under 0.5%. Well under. Now that I know 1% is high risk, like over 1% is super high risk. Um, Now that I know that, it's like I didn't understand why I got froze. So the benefits of moving away from Stripe. Let me touch on what's like Stripe, PayPal, Square. They're all what is called a payment facilitator. And what that is they own the merchant account and they run your payments through their merchant account, if that makes sense. And then they pay you out typically 7 days later because that's when most chargebacks happen. If it's fraudulent, somebody sees $1,000 charge on their bank and they're like, whoa, that wasn't me. Within the first 7 days is typically when they find that out. And so that's why Stripe holds money for about 7 days for the most part until you're doing, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, then you can get payouts early. Anyways, so they own the merchant account. And when you switch to when you own the merchant account and you actually go through somebody that knows what they're talking about with payment processing and they can get you a real merchant account, they get you approved for it. They go through a whole underwriting process. They know your business. They know that they can get you approved. They know what to expect, whereas Stripe just approves everybody and then later comes and shuts people down. And so there's a big problem in this industry, and a lot of people don't see it because it's so easy to sign up for Stripe. Like I could probably go and sign up for Stripe in 5 minutes and take someone's payment in 10 minutes. Whereas with setting up a merchant account, it's not that fast. Typically it takes 3 to 5 days for an approval because you have to go through a whole process of them getting to know your business. But they know your business. If it's not something that they're willing to take the risk on, you're going to get declined unless something that I went through, people just pushing through to get what's called an activation bonus, a couple $100, or some companies pay a couple $1,000s on like an activation bonus, and then they'll later freeze the account because it's too high risk, and the rep or whoever signed you up lied about your account, or maybe they didn't lie about your account, but they didn't know exactly what they were doing. So they set it up how they knew they were doing it, but it was set up wrong. So then you get frozen. So there's a lot of things that you got to pay attention to and be careful about. But the main benefits are being more in control. You don't really have to worry about your account getting shut down unless for some reason your chargeback rates jump up. That's the biggest reason why we see accounts shut down, for a couple of different reasons. One, to protect the merchant, and another to protect the clients as well. If there's a lot of chargebacks coming in, it's the risk is like, okay, well, what's going on? For example, let's use a coach, for example. If the coach is all of a sudden, he's at a 0.5% chargeback rate, and then all of a sudden 1 month jumps up to a 20% chargeback rate, they're like, okay, did the coach stop giving his material out? Is there some type of issue? So then they make it so the coach can't accept payments anymore. So it protects the coach if there is an issue. Fraudulent card users, we've had stories of people coming in and buying like 10 to 15 different users and then issuing refunds and chargebacks on it to get the coach in trouble and to get them shut down. I've heard that quite often. But so it protects both sides. Whereas Stripe, they don't care. They'll just shut you down. They'll freeze your account. They'll put you on match list. And if you get put on match list, it's basically like bankruptcy in the payment processing world. And so, I mean, I could go a lot deeper into match list, but having your own merchant account from somebody that knows what they're doing is night and day difference. The fees are better. The customer support's better. I don't know if you've ever tried to deal with customer support through Stripe or PayPal when there's an issue. There's just, I could just go on and on about the benefits and stuff. The only cons are that, I mean, it takes a couple of days to get set up, and it's a little bit harder to get set up.
I'm just curious, like thinking back to that whole situation when you got your accounts frozen for 7 months. If you could project yourself back to, let's say you're back in the shoes of your younger self, which is pretty much the shoes where a lot of agency owners or coaches, consultants are before they get shut down and frozen. Like if you could speak to your younger self at that point, how would you set up your business? What would you do? How would you see the financial side and the payment processing side, and how would you act?
You know, it's if I put myself back in the moment, I didn't know any different. Stripe and PayPal were the go-to. A couple years prior to that, PayPal had froze my account as well, with one of my Shopify e-commerce stores that I built. So it was just Stripe was the new thing for online businesses, and everybody was talking about it. I had seen a lot of people posting pictures and stuff of Stripe and talking about Stripe. So really, if I could go back and tell myself, I would just say, look, there's different ways. There's always a different way to do it. And just because it's working doesn't mean that it's the best way to do it, but sometimes it could be. But you don't ever know unless you kind of explore out and find out maybe are other better ways. And I always tell people now, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? And then I'm like, but when it breaks, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because this fire isn't something that just like is just a little fire. It's a big fire. If you can't take payments in your business, what would you do?
It's kind of almost like building a house on the wrong foundation. Because if you have 100K in Stripe and it gets locked up, kind of the situation you were facing, um, you need to fulfill for the client's already paid, there's this whole situation. And it's kind of like
You have
building
team
your,
costs to pay for, you
yeah,
have your own business overhead expenses to pay for, and it just I would say the average time that I've seen accounts frozen for with Stripe is about 3 months, 90 days
yeah,
of frozen payments, and they will still accept payments coming in, they just won't pay you out. So if you have reoccurring subscriptions, like I have a guy that we're talking with, that I actually got on a call with earlier today. He has like $45,000 in monthly reoccurring subscriptions, and he's been frozen on Stripe for 5 months. And he has reached out to his clients to move over their subscriptions to us and everything else, and they're just some of them aren't responsive because they don't check their emails or whatever. It's if you have a monthly reoccurring subscription business, it's tough because the money will still keep coming in, but Stripe will still keep holding it. And that was, I think, the biggest problem with me is clients were still expecting results. Clients were still expecting our team to take care of them. And it was like after the first two months really was when I was like, you know what, I don't know if Stripe will ever give me my money back. So we need to figure something else out. So I'm very thankful that I had long-term clients that were just like, yeah, we'll wire you the money because that's what really kept me afloat. But if you don't have that type of volume to be able to keep yourself afloat and have other businesses and other streams of income coming in, your business is going to starve. If you can't take payments, you're screwed.
yeah, exactly. And now I think you've been transitioning as well into the financing and funding space, and you've had some clients with some great successes. Oftentimes, I feel having a little bit of experience in that space too. It seems like people can't understand how big of a leap that is, how big of a transition, how impactful that can be to start offering that too as a kind of a payment processor as well, offering financing, but instead you have a contract in place, you have clause, you have something that holds instead of just a Stripe, just a Stripe basically reoccurring payment that you're kind of praying that the client is going to pay. Instead, you offer financing contracts and that kind of stuff. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that works and client wins that you've had in that space?
Yeah, so we've had quite a few client wins in the funding space, and most of them come from people that came to me that had issues on Stripe, and we got them switched over to our payment processing solutions. And then they just kept coming to me like, hey, I need some type of financing or funding for my clients. We sell high ticket programs, and there's a lot of clients that we're using like coach financing, and um, there's another one. I'm trying to think of what it's called. Coach financing and Special Fi is another one. They're great. They get people approved, but their approval rates have gone downhill, and they're charging like I think coach financing is like at least 30% that goes straight to coach financing. So the coach, if they're charging a 10K subscription, or not a subscription, but most coaches have like a 10K one-time fee or something, the coach financing is going to take 30% of that. So the coach is only going to get $7,000 or $7,500, one of those two. And then it's like, how do you stay profitable at that point? You don't. So there's other companies out there, and I had a lot of people coming to me like, hey, do you offer this as well? Because it'd be nice to have, my payment processor offer the same thing. Stripe offers Klarna, and they were just getting, not very good approval rates through it, even with people with 700 credit scores, which if you're in the financing funding space, 700 credit scores should be able to get you at least, a couple $1,000, depending on other stuff too. But what we've seen is when people that have a solid structure, solid foundation, especially with payment processing, they have other things figured out. They don't have to worry about their business being on fire with payments and with anything else. They have the sales process built. We've seen upwards of 200 to 300% increase in business because there's a statistic that is 77% of transactions over $1,000 are financed right now. 77%. And that's only over $1,000. So if you get to $2,000, what's the percentage there? 5,000, what's the percentage there? 25,000 and 50,000, what's the percentage there? Most of the deals, like with a lot of our bigger coaching clients, I'll give this number because I see this every single day. I can see the processing, I can see the funding volume. Most of my coaching clients that are processing credit cards and ACH in the range of like $100 to $200,000 a month, they are doing about 2 to 3 million a month in funded deals. So about 10 times the amount, because if their ticket price is over 10 grand, I would go out on a limb and say 90% of those deals are financed if it's over 10 grand. I haven't been in the funding space long enough to actually give solid numbers on that, but I'll have to get back to you on that one, Rob. But that's, we've seen huge success rates on that stuff.
Yeah, and from my personal experience as well in the funding space, I've seen some companies, as soon as they start financing, they change their model, they change the end of their sales. Instead of a direct PIF or essentially a monthly recurring payment on Stripe, they go for a financing option pitch instead. They collect a lot more cash up front, and that creates a lot of growth potential. They can re-inject into ads. And so the client gets a win because he gets a low monthly payment, but the actual company that offers the funding, or the actual company that is offering the solution right now that uses funding as a solution, then can get all the cash up front or a part of the cash up front, which creates accelerated growth. And we've seen amazing growth too, 200-300%, as you're mentioning. That's, and that's really amazing for a business to be able to use and leverage that capital while the client gets, $300 a month or 400, 500, and makes it super affordable for them. And it's a big win for the business. So yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. And that paying out like your team too. Like if you have closers and you are taking on, this is a big thing that I've seen, really big thing. If you have closers and you are taking on you're doing your own financing where you do your installment plans, where if you're selling a $10,000 package and you offer your client $500 a month payments, how do you pay your closer their percentage? What do? You pay them the percentage of the monthly fee. That's how a lot of these companies are that we've spoke to, is they tell the closer, hey, like, we can only pay you a percentage of that monthly fee that they pay out because we don't know if they're going to pay for 3 months or 4 months or 1 month, or if they're going to complete the contract. So now the closer is even happier because they are sending the deals to get funding, and they get a bigger check, and it's guaranteed. It's there for them. They close the deal, it's there, instead of like, okay, well, I close this deal, they're going to be paying $500 a month. My 20% on that's $100. And that's just quick math. So if I'm wrong there, forgive me, but I think that's right. So my 20% there, if they're making 20%, is $100, which is significantly different than 20% on $10,000.
Exactly, and I've seen it firsthand in like some bigger seven-figure companies, as you're mentioning. 1 mil, 2 mil a month, and the closers are running because they're rolling, they're crushing it, and that's because really they've got a good payment processing and financing solution in place. Otherwise, as you're saying, they'd be paid like $50 a month, $100 a month for that close. And as we know, since most of those deals are like in the 5 to 10K range, a lot of it is going to be financed. So if it's just $50, $100 a month, there aren't many closers that are going to stick around for that kind of.
Any good closers?
Yeah, exactly. So it's really
There's a lot of closers that are new and getting into the game that might stick around for that. But if you want to keep a good closer around, you have to pay them good and treat them good. And if you the one of the big things that I see with a lot of these companies get frozen on Stripe, is they have the money frozen and they can't pay their closer. They can't pay their closing team. They can't pay their appointment setters. They can't pay their team that they've been working with for years. Their team has bills to pay. It's not that they hate the business owner. They can understand that Stripe froze them, but they have bills to pay. So they have to go and find a different job. And at that point, it's like all of this work and all of this progress that you have gained as a business owner, you finally feel like you're getting ahead. And then all of a sudden, something like that happens. That's what it was like for me. And that's what it's like for probably like 80, 90% of people that I talk to that get frozen. So yeah, I mean, getting yourself a good foundation by offering payment processing and funding solutions. Your business starts at payments. If you can't accept a payment, you don't have a business, and that goes for funding as well.
Exactly my thought. And often in the coaching online space, it's so glamorous to see, okay, these people are flexing the cars and all of that. You can't see those intangible things that are like the foundation of your business, like the payment processing you use. And you've got to build upon a solid foundation. So really appreciate that. And yeah, tell us a little bit more about the businesses you're building. I know that you're going in a direction where it's more software, if you're open to sharing a little bit more about that. But what, where are you transitioning, and where do you see the market evolving to um, as we keep going in 2024, 2025?
So right now, what we've seen is the economy's tightening up. Interest rates were just announced that they were being dropped down a little bit. So it seems like maybe the economy is going to open back up a little bit more. Hopefully. With the economy tightening, we've seen in payment processing, we've seen chargeback rates increasing up until last, I think in January is the first month that we've seen that those chargeback rates have actually started to pull back. Hopefully it keeps going that way, because for me, I was like, okay, well, I'm seeing these chargeback rates jump. I know that consumers need more money in their accounts. That's why chargebacks jump, is because the people are like, at the end of the month, they're like, oh, I don't have money to pay for my necessities, so I need to do a chargeback on something that wasn't a necessity. Even does it make it right? No, it doesn't, but it happens. So we were seeing that up until last month. It seemed like it's kind of maybe opening back up and growing a little bit more. So hopefully we stay on this path. Now, if we don't, um, there could be some problems. And I know that, with people needing more money, they're going to have more funding. So there's two things here that I see. If our economy continues to tighten down and you're not offering funding, you're probably going to starve. You could be doing very well. You could be doing 100 grand a month right now. But if you're not offering funding, like my other clients that are doing 100 grand a month, they're doing over $1 million in funding, most of them. So it's like 1/10 of your business is credit card and ACH transactions, where the others is funding. So if you're not offering it, big mistake there. But anyways, so the growth potential of a market that is tightening is great. And also with the market that is opening, interest rates are going to be coming lower. More lenders are getting back into the game. So there's going to be more options for lending. Approval rates are going to increase. So it's like you can't lose by offering funding. So with some of the transitionaries that we're doing this month, or not this month, but primarily we're hoping for in the first 2 quarters of this year. I know it's already February. We're already halfway through February, so it's kind of, it's going faster than expected. But we're really building a software where we're going to have payment processing and funding all built into the same system. Because right now, if you send a Stripe invoice, they can get it financed through Klarna. If you do PayPal, they have their buy now, pay later function. Those are the two great things about Stripe and PayPal that I absolutely love. So we're working on building something very similar to that, where we have on every single invoice that goes out from our payment processing, if you opt into it, of course, then your clients will have the option to get the payments funded. So that's like a big thing. Now with the software, we have a ton of different ideas. We haven't, the software is being built right now. We're doing testing phases. So there's a lot of stuff that we're working on. I can't really give too many details on that right now, just because it's like right now what we want and what we're building towards might not be something that we even want next week. because it's completely, we're in the idea stage. It's just getting the foundation built of everything right now. So, but primarily we want payments and like a whole CRM system, like client management, communication can stay within the ecosystem, invoices, funding, like you'll be able to see where your client is in the funding process right inside of this same system where you can have communication with the client, you can text, you can email, you can have all sorts of different stuff in one software. And it's, it's going to be like a full thing that you can run your entire business out of.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, and it sounds really like I've been seeing all your other posts as well, and it seems you're really hedging for helping business owners out as much as possible. I even saw your post you were sharing about a Canva promo that looked crazy, and all these special discounts. So it seems like what's nice about what you're doing is not only are you serving on the payment processing space and the funding space, but it's really all around helping people. And I think that that's one of the great values that you have as well, that can be transparent across your personal messaging, your network, your personal brand. So yeah, cheers to that. Definitely, you're doing some good
Yeah.
work.
You know, when I went through the process, the whole 7 months of being froze by Stripe, I didn't have anybody. No, I mean, I had family and friends and stuff, but it wasn't like most of my family, they're not business owners. They work a 9 to 5. Most of my family has told me this whole time, like even when Stripe froze me and I went to one of my family members and I told them, hey, look, Stripe froze me. I'm having a hard time. And they're like, yeah, I told you should get a 9 to 5. And I'm just like, what? Like I'm coming to you because I'm having a hard time in life, and you are trying to throw that at me, saying, "Yeah, I told you so." Um, yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that it's very stressful. But that whole process, I didn't have anybody, so it's kind of shaped me into genuinely wanting to help others because I know what it's like to go through this alone, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody else. Anybody that has built their business, like I was watching my business burn. My employees were leaving because I couldn't pay them. Um, and it was like, yeah, we kept on a lot of our key employees because I did have the wires coming in from our clients that have been with us for years. But it was like the closers that were closing deals that didn't get paid for all the deals that they had closed because Stripe had them froze. And I was just like, look, I'll pay you guys. Let me move some money around. Let me figure some stuff out. I'll pay you guys. And it was just like, I don't blame them though. They have bills to pay, but it was a very stressful time, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So I'm here to help. I try to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to help everybody we can. It's hard sometimes to help everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And but it shows that you have a heart of service, and I think that's one of the main things I'm also taking out of entrepreneurship. It's really having a good heart, being a go giver, as the one of the books says, right? And to keep serving all the time as much as you can. And that's kind of the spiritual journey of entrepreneurship in some way. It's growing so much to be able to contribute more, and through our challenges and our own experiences, then that invites us to have accelerated growth, if we want to see it that way. And then we become a better leader at that. We can serve people with more humility, be better, and give them tactical solutions, practical solutions as well. But I can see that you're serving your community, like whether it's in small things and discounts here, and like ideas that you share and all of that. So you're holding a good community, especially on Facebook. That's what I see. Um, so yeah, that's you're doing a good job on that.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm really trying. We try to help as many people as we can. So
Yeah,
I don't use Canva myself, but there's a couple other promos that I was like, hey, like my network could really benefit from this. Like LinkedIn Sales Navigators, like I think it's like 50% off. Original price is like $100, and through a connection that came to me, he's like, yeah, I can get it for like I don't know the price. I don't remember. I just had my assistant pay the bills. But so he came to me and I was like, yeah, my network needs to know about this. So I made a post about it, and then everybody that commented on it was like, I think we had like 60, 70 people comment on it. And I was just like, okay, well, I need to have my assistant go through and like put a group chat in with everybody with this other guy that kind of gave me the deal. And so he's loving it too. So not only am I helping a huge network of people get like the promos, but I'm helping this one business owner that came to me and offered me the service and did a very good job for me. because now I'm sending him all the business. I'm sure he makes a little bit of money on it. Probably not much, but he makes a little bit of money on it, and it's probably reoccurring as well. If it sells navigators like 50% off, and someone uses it for 2 years, I'm sure he gets paid every month for 2 years, which is the beauty of it. So, anywhere that I can help, we're great and happy to do so.
Yeah, and I want to come back to a point where you mentioned, going through those challenges and being able to serve. And so I really like taking these episodes to learn from your experience as much as possible by asking ideally the right questions. And so my question for you is outside of the payment stuff, um, let's put like payment, Stripe, all that kind of stuff aside, just you advising your younger self on entrepreneurship in general, mentorship, all the great things of entrepreneurship. What kind of advice would you give your younger self to accelerate faster, to grow more? What kind of advice would you give him if you could go back 2, 3 years, something like that, 5 years?
Stop caring about what other people think about you. That would be probably the number one biggest thing, is because a lot of the times I was afraid to post like certain things on Facebook because I'm like, what is my family going to say if I fail? What is my family going to think of me if I fail? Or what if this post doesn't get any comments? Like, what is, like, is my I don't even know. I'm not going to say any names, but someone in my family or one of my friends going to be like talking crap behind my back, saying, "Oh, like blah blah blah, whatever," And I'm just like, all of this stuff was going through my head, and I was like, you know what? Everybody else has their own stuff that they have going on in their life. Who cares if they talk crap about you? They're not paying your bills. That's how I look at it now. It's like, hey, look, like I'm going to make these posts on Facebook. I'm going to do what I can to help people because I've been so kind of locking myself in, caring about what other people think, trying to do this, trying to do that. Like the whole entrepreneurship journey started when I was before I was even in high school. But it was like, oh, you've got to go get a job. You've got to get a good job so you can, have good health benefits. You've got to do this and stuff. So I went and started working in the electrical field. I was doing lineman work, and we saw at one of the substations we were working at, there was a big accident that happened, and I witnessed it. And I saw the way that the company treated the people that the accidents happened to. They treated them okay, but it's like these are life altering accidents. Like what had happened was a pole had fell over, hit one of the main power coming into the substation, and it arced to the excavator and some of the machinery that they had there. And there was a couple guys that were like working around that had severe electrical burns. One guy had his leg blown off, just completely blown off. Like I thought that these people were dead. And I was just like, this isn't for me. Seeing the way that they treated the company, like I was working in the refineries too. We were working 18-hour days, 13 days on, 1 day off. Yeah, working in the refineries here in Salt Lake, Tesoro, Chevron, and stuff like that. We were doing what they call as a turnaround or a shutdown. They shut the plant down for a couple months to do some major work on it, so everybody's working as many hours as possible. And it was like, I can't do this until I'm 65, the retiring age. I can't do this. I can't work for somebody else and build someone else's business for them. So it's like when I did venture out on my own, everybody told me, they're like, "Oh, you can't do that. Like nobody else does that. Like you're going to fail. You're not going to succeed. It's better to just work a job and to have security and to have good health benefits and go buy a house and a brand new car and all this stuff." And I'm just like, yeah, that's all great. Having a brand new house is great. Having a brand new car is great. But if you have to work a job that you hate and you can't enjoy your life, then what's the point? Like I hear people say, oh, you got to have work-life balance. If that's even a question, I don't think that that's right. Why do you work 5 days and have life for 2 days? That doesn't make sense to me. It should be the other way around. You should have life for 5 days and maybe work for 2 days, or at least love what you do for work.
That's the beauty of recurring payments.
It definitely is. Passive income on that. So it's definitely beautiful. And
Yeah.
helping people, I think, is a beautiful thing. I think the payments is the side effects. of the help that we've done with people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great business model, helping a lot of people, making sure that they don't get stuck in a similar situation where it can be really an uncomfortable situation to be in. So, yeah, perfect, Corey. Um, if there was one last thing that you'd want to share with the audience that you think would be very meaningful, um, you think could have a positive impact on them, what would you share with the audience? If they're coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs?
Don't have the mindset that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because trust me, when stuff breaks, it's more stressful than it is if you just explored the options to begin with and actually took steps to do things. Another thing is never rely on just one thing, because when you rely on one thing, if that one thing breaks, you're kind of screwed. So yeah, keep Stripe open. Get a different payment processor. Have two options for funding. Have have two closers, because if one's sick, then the other one can pick up some of the slack. So that's one of the things too. Don't ever rely on just one thing in business.
Yeah, exactly. Have a strong foundation. Not just one touch point. You need four angles to at least a square
Exactly.
house or something like that. So you need to build a strong foundation and not just build an inverse pyramid that might as well topple over if you're just building everything on Stripe or something like that.
Yeah.
Not to throw them under the bus, but we just
There's
want to make sure that
there are
we
some
protect
people
both.
that they don't ever have issues with Stripe. I talk to people all the
Yeah,
time that they're like, "Oh, I've used Stripe for 10 years. We've ran multiple like millions of dollars through them." Like I know a guy that's doing they're doing like 18 million a month, 18 to 20 million a month, and he's been doing 18 to 20 million a month for 9, 10 years. Not a single issue. And I'm just like, well, consider yourself one of the lucky ones. So there are people out there that don't have any issues whatsoever. But again, don't rely on just one thing, because if that one thing breaks, you're kind of screwed.
yeah. It's always good to have a backup. So Corey, thanks a lot for being on. I've really appreciated the time spent together. Learned a lot of lessons. I love these sessions personally to learn as on the front row, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to learn from all the content we split up. So yeah, thanks a lot for being on and sharing with the audience.
Yeah, I love being here, and hopefully some of the knowledge that I've shared helps a lot of people. That's really what we're here for.